Welcome to Fallout, where everything's radioactive, the roaches are 6 feet tall, and humanity's best idea of survival was locking themselves in underground tin cans called vaults. Now, if you're unfamiliar with these vaults, let me break it down. Vault-Tec built these bad boys to protect people during a nuclear apocalypse. But here's the twist. They weren't just bunkers, they were social experiments. Because if humanity is going to survive, we should definitely mess with people's mind while they're trapped underground. That'll end well, right? What could possibly go wrong when you're already stuck underground with the same 100 fucking people? So here we are, the top 10 vault experiments that went horribly wrong. Because apparently, Vault-Tec thought chaos was just another form of research. Number 10, Vault 12. The one where they didn't close the vault door all the way. And I'm not even exaggerating here. That was the whole experiment. The vault's located on the Bakersfield, and the door was deliberately designed to not fully seal so that radiation could seep in slowly. I know, great idea, right? Everyone inside turned into ghouls, wandering around for all of eternity. Vault 22 had one job: to grow crops faster, because when you're hiding from nuclear bombs, food is a bit of a big deal, right? So the scientists here thought, hey, what if we make plants grow at super speed? But nature, as it turns out, doesn't like being rushed. Like, it was just like the night out with me and Stacy. I did not like getting rushed, and well, let's just say I ended up finishing a bit too quickly. Instead of crops, they ended up creating hyper-aggressive mutant plants that took over the entire vault. Oh, let's not forget the little detail that these plants could release spores that turned people into walking zombie fungus hybrids. Just in case regular killer plants weren't terrifying enough. Vault 75. On the surface, it seemed like a nice vault. It was built under a school in Malden, Massachusetts. The goal? To protect and educate children. But here's the kicker. This education was all about creating the next generation of super soldiers. Because why not use a vault full of kids as a giant military experiment, right? So these kids were trained, tested, and if they didn't meet Vault-Tec's insane physical standards, well, they didn't get to graduation. And that just basically meant they were, Vault 11 was like a twisted social experiment meet the Hunger Games. The residents were told that they had to sacrifice one person every year to keep the vault systems running. That's right, every year they had to vote on who should die. Because Vault-Tec just loves democracy, right? And naturally, things got ugly fast. Imagine living in a vault where, every year, it's somebody's turn to take one for the team. Happy New Year, now let's vote on who gets to die. This vault pushed paranoia, betrayal, and groupthink to the max. And by the time it was all over, there were only 5 people left. And well, let's just say it didn't end too peaceful. Vault 108, the clone vault. For many reasons, we never truly understand, Vault-Tec decided to fill this vault with clones. But not just any clones. They were all named Gary. What a fucking boring name. Sorry to any Gary watching. And you know what? That wasn't even the worst part. The overseer was set to die within 40 months because Vault-Tec apparently scheduled heart attacks now. Like what? And the vault was deliberately understocked with supplies, so conflict was just inevitable. When the clones started multiplying, things got even weirder. Before long, the vault was overrun with hostile. I said hostile. What the fuck is going on? Before long, the vault was overrun with hostile Gary clones who would just attack you while screaming their name. Gary, 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 Gary. Vault 87. Now, if you thought things were already bad, let's talk about Vault 87. This vault was dedicated to experimenting with the Forced Evolutionary Virus, or FEV for short, which, if you know your Fallout lore, is the stuff that turns people into super mutants. And guess what? It went about as well as you'd expect. The virus turned everyone into these massive, mindless brutes that have been roaming the wasteland ever since. Except you, Strong. I love you. Vault 87 wasn't just a failure. It became ground zero for some of the most terrifying creatures in Fallout. So yeah, great job, Vault-Tec. You've truly outdone yourself with this one. Vault 112 went full-on Matrix mode. Residents here were plugged into virtual reality pods where they could live out idealized lives in simulated worlds. Sounds peaceful, right? Wrong. The whole vault was controlled by a mad scientist named Dr. Brown, who used the simulations to, well, let's just say he had a bit of a god complex. He tortured the residents, trapping them in these cruel, endless simulations, forcing them to relive twisted versions of their lives over and over, and they had no way out. Vault 112 wasn't a paradise. It was Dr. Brown's personal playground. Why do I fucking suck at pronouncing things? I didn't get it. It was Dr. Brown's personal playground of torture. Vault 95 was supposed to help people recover from addiction. Quite a noble idea, right? Vault-Tec being Vault-Tec, they couldn't just let it be a place of healing. Oh no. They secretly stocked the vault with a massive supply of drugs, just sitting there, waiting to be discovered. But nothing says progress like tempting a bunch of recovering drug heads with the very thing they're trying to avoid. Of course, when the vault residents found the stash, it was total chaos. Addiction, relapse, violence. It was basically one big Vault-Tec sponsored nightmare. Vault 101 had one simple rule: the door would never open. The residents were told that they spend their entire lives underground, never seeing the outside world again. And if that doesn't make you claustrophobic, I don't know what will. The experiment was designed to see how people would handle permanent isolation. Spoiler alert, they didn't handle it well. The overseer ruled with an iron fist. Paranoia set in and rebellion was always bubbling just below the surface. Vault 101 was like a pressure cooker, and one that was bound to explode, and it did. And finally, we've arrived at Vault 77. This vault had exactly one resident. Yep, one guy, all alone, except he wasn't actually completely alone. Vault-Tec, in their infinite wisdom, gave him a puppet. That's right, one man, one puppet. You can probably guess how this turned out, because nothing says mentally stable about locking a guy in a vault with zero human contact and then giving him a puppet to talk to. Over time, the poor guy went completely insane, developing a full-blown relationship with the puppet and treating it like it was a real person. Vault 77 was the ultimate social isolation experiment, and it ended with the lone survivor losing his grip on reality, forming a bizarre puppet-fueled psychotic break. Because in the world of Fallout, being alone with your thoughts isn't bad enough. You need a creepy puppet to keep you company. And there you have it, folks, the top 10 Vault experiments that went horribly wrong. I mean, at this point, I'm convinced that Vault-Tec wasn't so much interested in saving humanity as they were in seeing how exactly they could make people lose their minds. They made sure that even if you survive nuclear war, you were probably going to go insane anyway. So the next time you're wandering the wasteland, just remember, you might be dodging super mutants, killer plants, or even an army of Garys, but at least you're not stuck in a vault with a puppet. Or worse, stuck in a vault where the door is intentionally left open. Great job, Vault-Tec.